Good evening and thank you for joining us. I am Nashay Taylor. Cass County Electric customers near 25th Street South and 40th Avenue South were without power just before 9 this evening. Power has since been restored. Cass County Electric officials say crews are still working in the area as they continue to determine the cause. And 2 people are recovering from serious injuries tonight following 2 motorcycle crashes in Richland County. The two Harley-Davidson motorcycles were traveling north on County Road 26 at an unknown speed just after 3:30 this afternoon. Both drivers of the motorcycles lost control while attempting a right curve. The 2 motorcycles overturned multiple times. 2 people were airlifted to a hospital in Fargo and treated for serious injuries. Both motorcycles were carrying a second passenger. All 4 individuals were not wearing helmets at the time. It is believed these motorcycles were participating in the Haley Milk Run ride. Church bells rang in Orlando today in memory of 49 people who were shot and killed 5 years ago at a nightclub. The somber memorial was held at the First Orlando Church. The name of each victim was read. 5 years ago, the gunman killed 49 people at the Pulse nightclub during a 3-hour standoff with police. At the time, it was the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history.
We gather here today, O God of us all, to ring bells 49 times and to remember 49 angels whose precious lives were unexpectedly, tragically, violently taken from them, from us, from their families, and from our community.
U.S. senators passed a bill earlier this week designating the site of the former nightclub as a national memorial. President Joe Biden is expected to sign it into law. 1 person was killed and 9 others wounded in a mass shooting early this morning on Chicago's South Side. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, police say 2 males approached a group of people standing in a parking lot at 2 in the morning and opened fire. They say a 29-year-old woman was shot in the leg and abdomen. She later died at a local hospital. The other 9 victims were listed in good to fair condition. No arrests have been made. 14 people were shot in downtown Austin early this morning. At least 2 are in critical condition, and one of the suspects is still at large. Police were called to the scene after hearing reports of shots fired. According to reports, there were so many people in the area, it became nearly impossible to get emergency vehicles close enough to treat victims. Officers were then forced to transport some of the victims to the hospital in their cruisers. Authorities say they don't know what sparked the incident. Investigators say they've identified 2 male suspects. 1 arrest has been made. World leaders held talks on the second day of the G7 summit in southwestern England today. The leaders of the UK, the United States, France, Germany, Italy, Canada, Japan, along with the heads of the European Union and United Nations, met to discuss the coronavirus pandemic, national security, and other issues. The leaders, whose 3-day summit is scheduled to end tomorrow, are expected to commit to a new plan called the Carbis Bay Declaration to put a stop to future pandemics within the first 100 days. And thousands of protesters marched in England today to push those world leaders attending the G7 summit to act on climate change. The colorful protest took place in Cornwall. Climate change is among the top issues on the agenda of the summit, but activists say politicians have been delivering only empty promises on climate action. More cities and summer attractions are reopening and dropping COVID-19 restrictions, but lagging vaccination rates across the U.S. could leave some areas vulnerable to potential outbreaks and new COVID-19 variants.
Restrictions continue being lifted across the United States as more cities and states start fully reopening. On Friday, Chicago's mayor announced that Windy City has dropped pandemic-era regulations, no more mask mandate or social distancing requirements, even offering some free tickets to its famed Lollapalooza music festival to vaccinated fans.
And now it's time for you to get up, get out of the house this summer and fully and safely and enjoy the events of the best city on the planet, our beloved city of Chicago.
This week, other major cities like Seattle and Denver crossed the Biden administration's goal of having 70% of the adult population vaccinated with at least 1 dose by the 4th of July. New York State, on the cusp of reaching that goal. It's a threshold the state's Governor Andrew Cuomo has said will trigger the end to all of the state's COVID-19 restrictions. New Yorkers can also plan on the return of the famed Macy's fireworks for Independence Day, according to New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. But vaccination rates in certain states remain relatively low, including in states like Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Wyoming. While adults and children over 12 continue receiving vaccines across the United States, nearly 62% of that population has at least one dose so far, and experts are split on how urgently children under the age of 12 should receive their vaccine.
They are still at risk of hospitalization, and they are still at risk of having adverse side effects. Kids have been isolated for a large proportion of time, but as school starts back in the fall and they're in classrooms, they're in group activities and school sports, it's going to get colder, so people are going to start moving inside. Their risk is going to increase if they're not vaccinated.
Another concern among experts, the mental health of adolescents during the pandemic. Emergency room visits for suicide attempts rose an alarming 51% among teenage girls during the pandemic. That's according to a new study by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released on Friday. But there remain signs of optimism in the global fight against the pandemic. The Food and Drug Administration has authorized the use of 2 batches of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that were produced at a troubled Baltimore lab, concluding they are safe to use. Bolo Sandoval, CNN, New York.
A flight from Los Angeles to Atlanta had to be diverted to Oklahoma City Friday night after a passenger became unruly. In this video, you can see several passengers on top of a man in the aisle. Passengers said he was walking up and down that aisle and eventually got onto the plane's PA system. The man told passengers things were going to get turbulent and they needed to put on their oxygen masks. When the man started making his way to the door, other passengers stepped up to restrain him. The plane landed at Rogers World Airport in Oklahoma City, and police were at the gate waiting to arrest and take the man into custody. And according to a statement released by the Federal Aviation Administration today, there has been nearly 3,000 reports of unruly behavior by passengers since the start of the year. The agency says about 2,200 reports were about passengers refusing to comply with the federal face mask mandate. The FAA has identified potential violations in 446 cases and have initiated enforcement action in 42 cases. With people looking for some fun in the sun, pools are a great place to go to, but people still need to remember safety when heading to the pool. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling has the story.
Hot temperatures and pool time go hand in hand, but people should remember safety before they hit the water.
Look, listen, and listen, right? So, I mean, you're going to want to know your surroundings if you're going to be going into a new foreign environment, and then you're going to want to listen to your either group you're with, and then specifically the pool staff and the lifeguards around you. So we'll do listen twice just because you can never go wrong with that.
Some other tips that the lifeguards at South High want you to remember is to bring sunscreen, bring water to stay hydrated, and to know your limits when it comes to swimming. While pools are starting to fill up with loosened COVID restrictions, it brings more pressure for lifeguards to watch more people. However, despite those challenges, these lifeguards are just glad to see people out and about.
I think it's really nice to see that people are getting out, going swimming, just being outdoors. I think it's really good. It makes me really happy because we've been closed down for like a good year. So to see everyone, getting back together, having fun, collaborating, it's just super nice to see the community getting out and about again.
In Fargo, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
It is also very important to always listen to the lifeguard on duty while at a local pool. Later on Valley News Live at 10, a recent research shows people with healthy obesity are still at an increased risk for disease. But first, another beautiful day is in store for tomorrow, but some may be waking up to raindrops. Summer's up next.